Choose one thing that you feel passionately about, that you want to fight for. Choose one thing and then find your community for that one thing. It doesn't have to be everything, because everything is overwhelming. So just choose one thing.
Welcome to Bitch Talk. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm co-host Ange, aka Captain Party.
And for more than 11 years, the show has celebrated underrepresented voices in pop culture and beyond.
But not in the snore kind of way, which is why our listeners and followers have graciously voted us Best of the Bay, Best Podcast on 48 Hills for 3 years in a row. Three-peat, bitches.
If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram and check out our website, Bitch Talk Podcast, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're begging you to judge us. When does that ever happen? Oh, you're not going to say anything?
What'd I say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, on with the show. Clink.
Bitch Talkers, we have a very special episode for you because we have a couple of our favorite return guests coming back to us. They are filmmakers, they are activists, they are women on the ground making things happen. We have Julie Cohen and Ramona Diaz. Welcome back to Bitch Talk.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So I have to preface this by saying this all came about because of Julie reaching out to us and wanting to get into this really important conversation about the intersection of art and activism. If you both can just update us on how you're doing, what you're working on, where you are right now, physically, emotionally, whatever you want to update us with. We can start with you, Julie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone who's paying any attention and is a thoughtful, decent human being is going to say they're doing in the United States and a number of other places actually is going to say they're doing really well right now. Like, we're in a situation where authoritarianism is just sliding down on us. I think a lot of people understand that, also including in the arts and documentary filmmaking world, and yet sometimes there's a desire to put that aside and maybe not talk about it so much. I mean, it is true that I reached out to you with this thought, but that was because you guys have been quite responsive to when I've posted activist-y stuff on social media. I think, like a lot of people, I started getting into social media to use it, frankly, to promote my work and my films. And then things unfold in such a way that you're like, wow, if I'm someone who has any amount of a public voice right now, I think I better be using it to speak out against the Trump regime, because I've followed things that have happened in other countries. I have seen Ramona's film 1,000 Cuts and some of her other work about the Philippines, and I've read up on things about the pillars of support that are needed, like all the different institutions that support a regime, and that citizens who don't stand up are giving away their power. And I will say, I posted something political and Ramona responded in the comments just like 3 words: hold the line. And I knew what she meant by that, because it's something that Maria Ressa says, the Filipina activist and journalist who's been such an incredibly powerful voice, and that Ramona has done work on. And I think it actually made me think about just even speaking out publicly in a very different context, because this was maybe in March, I think. And I was like, ooh, whoa. But I'm like, yes, Ramona's right. We've got to hold the line. And she understands why, because you've thought probably more about these issues over the years than maybe I have. But this isn't a joke, people.
Yeah, to me, it feels very deja vu. I was born and raised under martial law in the Philippines, and came to this country, really chose America because it was for all that it represented, right? Freedom of expression, the ability to say anything that you want to say, right? So to live through this is like, wait, what just happened? Right? It's like it feels very familiar to me. And also very scary. I'm like, oh my gosh, do we have to do this again? And let me tell you, I took a little holiday out of the country and it felt so good because you didn't have to think about it every day. And I realized just this the energy that it takes to think about it every day is so exhausting. And I think that is the point, right? To exhaust us so we tune out and we disengage. Disengagement is really the goal, because then if we all disengage and unplug, then they can do anything they want, right? So it's really important to keep engaging, even how exhausting it is, and just do the little bit that you can to to speak up, because otherwise, yeah, it can go so very quickly. It's so funny, Julie, that you talk about the institutions. We thought the institutions were strong, but little did we know those institutions need people to also stand up within those institutions. Who knew, right? And those are the things that are not happening. The people within those institutions are crumbling, and it's stunning to me how fast it is, and how like 100%, right? It's like it's just stunning. Yeah, so to me this feels very deja vu, and it's really scary. And when I did 1,000 Cuts, we started filming that in 2018, like lifetimes ago. It feels like lifetimes ago. And I didn't see that as like prophetic or anything. I saw that as very specific to the Philippines, happening under Duterte. By the time we premiered it in 2020, and then we released it over the year 2020 and 2021, it became more and more like relevant in this country, and we saw it happening in real time. Just stunning, surprising. I don't know, maybe uh I don't know, and we should talk about that. I'm not sure if it's all that surprising.
Yeah, I don't want to go too off topic, but maybe it's not. My husband and I this morning were like, man, why weren't the guardrails starting to build maybe in 2015? And now it's 10 years later, and it seems like one side just was built differently and had a focus versus the other. But now we're in this like code red place. And Julie, your answer to that, which I love, is like, I'm going to just start in my backyard and I'm going to put on something every week. So I want to talk about that, and really how people can just look in their backyard and start doing the work.
Yeah, well, I think the point that Ramona was just making, that the goal of leaders, like we've said, like, leaders is not a word I love, but the people in positions of power that want to use that power to very ill effect, their goal vis-a-vis citizens is to make you feel disengaged, disempowered. There's nothing I can do. Even their opponents, even people that very much think what they're doing is wrong, which actually is most of the country, like, to even on the issues that are considered to be like politically tricky for the left, like immigration. Well, no, actually, once Trump is in and it's real, once you see that people who have not committed any crime, a number of whom are in this country legally or even are citizens, once you see people get grabbed off the streets by people with masks that won't identify themselves and taken to detention camps, and I actually think concentration camp is absolutely a fair word if you Google the definition, scarily enough, once people actually see that happen, like, even very middle of the road people do not like that. Like, those policies aren't good. But the whole idea of Trump and everyone around him is to make people feel like, oh, there's nothing I can do. Like, this is just happening. I don't have any power. Who am I? No one's really speaking up. And I sort of got a little frustrated hearing people complain that other people weren't speaking up. including even myself. Like, I go on speed walks with my next door neighbor every day. We're both progressive people. We're just two ladies in Bloomfield, New Jersey. And, we would say in January, like, like, you'd heard people like, where are the protesters? And it just meant like, and my husband and I had talked about what would it take for us to go to the streets. But when you envision that, you're picturing that there are other people on the streets that you are going to join. And we just realized, like, wait a second, nobody's coming to save us. When we're saying, like, where are the people? We're people. Why don't we just try it? We started this in February. Why don't we go? We set a location every Sunday, same time, same place. Just go, and we'll see what happens. We'll try to publicize it, but we won't worry too much if not that many people come the first day. And it worked. It was pretty amazing. Like, the first day had 17 people, and a week later we had 100 people. And this Sunday is going to be week number 23, and it's turned. We did it sort of thinking of it as an obligation, maybe, but it's turned out to be like everyone who comes, it's like our favorite part of the week. People bring signs. People are, there's always people that stop by who cry just seeing us there. There are undocumented people who come up and said, like, we can't join you, but they bring us like bottles of water because it's a hot day, and they like it, and it's led people to, like, now we've started a whole, like, we do activism stuff, and we've sort of figured out things we can do locally. We happen to live just about 6 miles away from Delaney Hall, like one of the major detention centers in Newark that's been the focus of a lot of stuff. So people are, I've gone there to protest. Like, there's stuff to do. Doing one thing builds to doing others.
Yeah, I wish that, it was covered more widely in the media, right? Those little protests. I think one person who talks about it a lot is Rachel Maddow, right? She makes it a point to really talk about all the protests across the country, and just every week I feel like I hear her, and it's just to remind us, because otherwise what becomes normal are the things that we hear, that the ICE agents, right, picking up people off the streets. So there's so much of it that you think it's normal, right? Because the making it normal is really, really scary too, because then you don't act, right? But then to hear about the protests is important, because you need to, there's power in numbers, right? You need to know that it's happening. So I wish it were covered more in the mainstream press, every protest that happens across the country, instead of just what goes on every day. That is, it causes such rage, and I understand why they cover it, and it should be covered. But let's cover what is happening on the other side to help stop it.
A balance, yeah.
Well, it all comes back to being in community, like realizing that we're not alone. And I think, at this point, we know that we are in for a marathon, not a sprint. And there has to be some sort of sustainability within our activism. And I feel like Aaron and I talk about this all the time. Instead of being overwhelmed by the macro, focusing on the micro, just like both of y'all are doing. So do you have any tips for our listeners on everyday things? Every day we are activists in everything that we do. Right. A big one is, where you're spending your money. Do you have any tips for our listeners who feel overwhelmed and who are still trying to figure out what their activism looks like to them?
I would say small, step at a time. And just because you can't do everything doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything. Disengaging financially from really bad places is definitely part of it. And just because, just to be completely honest and personal, like, Amazon is one of those places that, like, it seems like, wow, this has gone in a bad direction. I need to disengage from Amazon. What does that look like? We pretty quickly, my husband and I, we used to go to Whole Foods every week. We're like, okay, we're not shopping at Whole Foods anymore. That's an easy switch. We go to a different grocery store. And beyond that, we are, like, literally weaning off. We did not quit Amazon cold turkey because that's where we bought, like, most of our stuff. So we're figuring out, we did the minute that Costco came out, like, saying, like, screw the administration, we're going to stick with DEI, we immediately went and got Costco membership. I don't know if any of you have shopped at Costco. Oh. If you don't have a family of 8, it's a little
exactly.
You don't let you get it. So we're like, okay, well, we have the membership. Now we're going to get our, anyway, we're we're finding other places to get our things with sort of like a Labor Day deadline of being off Amazon. But like, this is where things get a little touchy. Amazon has been a major funding source for a lot of documentaries that I've done.
Yes.
I was in a situation where there was something, possibly to pitch to Amazon, and I just said, I can't do this. Like, if I want to boycott them by not going to Whole Foods, I don't really see how I justify going into business with them, like, or staying in, because I've been in business, like going into business again with them, like signing a contract. Like, that viewpoint is like considered pretty controversial in our business. And actually, I would also say I do not require, like, I think it depends on your circumstance. If I was younger and needed and they were the only potential funder in something, and I needed that to make a living, and I had kids that I was putting through college rather than a husband, we've been double income, no kids people, and although we're not rich, we're also not we're not going to depend on every single funding of it. It is optional film, but I think if you can make those decisions, sometimes you have to do it. And in terms of like pushback that I've gotten from colleagues, that has definitely led to pushback. But I think sort of thinking through, like, wow, we're in a whole different world now.
Can I ask you too about that conversation with other filmmakers? Because there are people that I follow or we've had on the show where then they'll have something streaming on Amazon or that documentary's on there. And I'm like, damn it. But I understand, because you want the platform and you need the platform. So what is that conversation within the studio system or with your colleagues and the people that you work with?
Yeah, it's complicated, right? Because at the end of the day, you want your work to be seen and heard and understood. And my work, especially, it's like it's a harbinger of things to come. And what we really do is also we bear witness to the times, however troubled they are. The more troubled they are, we bear witness, and it's important that people see it. And to be seen widely. There are streamers and there's Amazon. So do we, so it's always like, so you talk yourself into the good things, make a checklist, right? Pros and cons,
right?
And then see where you are. And then what are your other options? For me, well, I had public television as an option,
right,
for 1,000 cuts. Well, I did, right? Who knows now? Who knows what's going to happen? But especially for 1,000 cuts, that was very intentional to go with Frontline, because we knew it needed to have a quick turnaround and be on Frontline for free on YouTube and anywhere I wanted it. Like, because really the deal is for North America, but if I want, they unblocked it for the Philippines. And that is a quick decision that one person can make at Frontline, because it was important for people in the Philippines to see it, right? So if there are choices, then it's really, of course, then, yeah, if you can afford to take, it's less money, obviously. And so it's very intentional. But in the long run, what is better for the work, also for the soul? And if you can afford to do it, then do it. And so that was, especially for 1,000 cuts, that was a very specific decision, very intentional to go with Rainey and Frontline. And I haven't regretted it since. They did amazing things with that film. So if there's a choice, then always think of it, but it is complicated. And it's hard to have rules, right? Because every filmmaker is in a different position.
Yeah, and there's so many different factors that it kind of feels like it always has to be case by case. And I want to be clear, I actually have films I've done in the past that are on Amazon, and I'm not like saying like, no, take this film down, like, break my contract, or like, like I'm not blowing up my life in that way. But in terms of like re-engaging in business with them on a particular thing, I'm just not seeing it right now. It's just too gross. Like, they're doing a Melania doc, for which they're paying $40 million. Like, it's disgusting. Not enough people in our world, including super progressive people, are saying like, whoa, hold up. Right. That's disgusting. If you're seeing people, if you're having some dealings with people that are like, are you like, whoa, dude, yuck. Like, because it would be better if rather than just on each thing, someone said, oh, well, like, no, where it really affects your life is where it's hardest to speak up and probably where it's most important.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, I do want to bring it back to just the importance of art. We talked about the lack of funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. A lot of our favorite film festivals and small theaters are in fear of closing and not having enough money to survive. So can you just dive into why art is so important, especially in these times, and maybe give examples of both of you have created films that have changed people's lives and given people inspiration. Maybe if you have personal stories about what people have told you your work means to them.
Well, my work is both hyper specific and also intentionally universal. I think to me, it's always an intention to make it, um, like I said, it's bearing witness to what's happening in front of you. And I think that's important because records are important. Like it's really what we make are historical records. And hopefully in 20 years, people will watch it and get inspired again and learn from it. So that's always my intention. Sometimes I'm sometimes more successful than other times, but that is always the intention behind my work. And just to bear witness. Um, it's really very inspiring when you show it to an audience. And that's why I still love live,
Yes.
screenings because they come up to you immediately and say like, oh my God, thank you for making that film. I'm inspired to do something, even like, especially with House Cuts with Maria and also, and so it begins the follow-up. It's like, even if it's just one little thing, it inspires them to do one thing. And always to me during the Q&A, my messages, if I'm asked for a message, I said, don't disengage. Don't. It's so easy, but don't. And you don't have to buy into all of it. I always say, choose one thing that you feel passionately about, that you want to fight for. Choose one thing and then find your community for that one thing. It doesn't have to be everything because everything is overwhelming. So just choose one thing. And so it's really satisfying when that happens, and you're like, yeah. And I'm always surprised, because we do these films in this bubble, and suddenly we're out in the world showing it to strangers, and it touches them in ways that you hope it would, but then when it really does, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, thank you, yeah, that's what it's meant to do, like little ways, right? Even if I'm making a film right now, it's in development, and we said, what is this film about? What is this film about? And we're saying, well, even if it causes someone to like like embrace someone they love right after the film, we've done our jobs, right? It's the small things that lead to the bigger things. So it's like little steps, little steps.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna start just because, with Ramona mentioning her films, it's like so notable to me, the huge shift that of her film's impact on me. I saw 1,000 Cuts on TV. I loved it. I thought it was a story about another place that was fascinating and really moving. Didn't for a second make any connection to anything else having anything closer to home. I was just like, wow, this Maria Ressa, like, what a hero. This is incredible. Like all the stuff in the Philippines that I didn't know. Great story. Loved it. And you're saying that was 2020. I would have seen that on Frontline. Like, so actually not that long ago. Then I saw And So It Begins in a theater, and I think a Doc NYC screening last fall. And you guys should all see that film if you haven't. But it like the whole thing from like the opening scene, I'm connecting it to, and this was very soon after the election, I'm connecting it to like stuff going on in our country. So all of a sudden, like loved both films, but just had a completely different experience of like, how is this relevant like to me and to us? There is obviously an incredible feeling of sort of empathy kind of personified that comes out when you're watching a lot of movies, but I think docs in particular, and the incredible experience we get to have as filmmakers of first feeling the connection with the people that your film is the participants in your film, like, and feeling like you're kind of transformed by whatever their deal is, and then bringing that out to a larger audience and sitting there while other people are having that experience is obviously incredible. I actually would see in some ways the way I felt that the strongest was Everybody, my film about intersex activists.
Yeah.
Which you always think you're making a film to sort of educate people who don't know as much about the subject, but truthfully, my favorite audiences for that film were audiences of intersex people who just seemed to learn about who heard that there was a film telling kind of, really going deep into that subject matter, and who just seemed to feel such a connection to the film participants. It's a great experience. It is a reminder that documentary filmmaking, kind of by definition, is pretty political. And I think there is some self-protective notion among some filmmakers right now of I'm not going to make all the parallels to our current political situation that clear, because that might get in the way of me being able to do the work I want to do. And I understand that, but I just feel like we can't shy away from the political implications of what we're doing too much, because right now everything's political. Looking away doesn't feel like a tenable option, either when you're working or when you're living your day-to-day life, because some really horrible things are going on for our neighbors. And someone whatever, you can't do everything to stop things, but not doing anything does not feel like the right way to go.
Yeah. I want to end on a high note for all of us. Where are you both finding joy and or laughs?
Hanging out with my daughter. That's really, because she's now an adult. She's 28, and our relationship has really evolved. And it's so wonderful to see that. So that, and just laughing about silly things, crazy things, and doing work. I still find joy in that. But it's hard because there's a lot of noise, right? You really have to concentrate. Yeah, I still find joy in the work.
I'd say the dogs are bringing a lot of joy, and I'm so concerned with how things might unfold in our country that I feel like I'm taking things a lot less for granted. There's a lot in my life that has been really lovely for quite a long time, and to be able to cook a meal and enjoy it with one's friends and spouse and chihuahuas is not nothing. And I probably appreciate that more than I ever did.
Thank you both for your work. And Ramona, thank you for Maria Ressa and just putting her on that pedestal. I've been posting a lot of her in conversations recently. Every time she's on and talking about fascism, authoritism. Oh my God, I can't find the word. But thank you. She's wonderful. And Julie, Polly Murray is just always on just the tip of our tongues. I love that you told that story with Betsy. And so thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome. I didn't mention that one before because that would have to lead me to, and you can watch it on Amazon Prime.
Well,
hey,
you know what?
This is a complicated time.
Nothing's perfect.
Yes, that is kind of full circle, but also there's a nuance, and there's grace to be had for things. That's another thing that we have to learn, I think, is just we're so quick to just cut someone off for one quick misstep, or if you say one thing the wrong way but you didn't mean it. It's we need room for grace as well, because we have to unite, all of us. We can't keep separating. That's not going to work. So that's another lesson.
Can I just say one thing? I'm still,
please,
I'm still hopeful. I mean, I really believe we're going to survive this time. I really do. This is a big country, right? So,
yes.
Often Maria does compare the Philippines with the US. but the Philippines is really small. It's easier to control. This country is humongous, right? And with all those little protests and people waking up, and really, it's not about Dems and Republicans anymore. This is like a different situation.
Right.
I think we will. I think we will survive. I think it's going to be hard. A lot of things will get destroyed in the process, um, and there will be a lot of things to rebuild. I think, and some things that we'll never get back. But I think in the end, um, uh, we'll survive, and something hopefully good will come out of it. I really, really believe that.
Mhm. I'm glad that you said that, because I was recently visiting a friend in Mexico, and her friend was saying, is an expat, and was like, "Is this the end of the United States?" Like, she was all stressed out, but my friend and I were like, "Would that be the worst thing in the world?
Right.
Maybe it'll become something better." It wasn't started on the best foot forward,
Right.
as we all know. So yeah, it's just food for thought. But thank you for saying that. And yeah, we're resilient as fuck, for sure. All of us
For
on
sure.
this call, this country, as a people. So thank you for saying that. We do have one segment that we are
Oh, are
starting.
we doing this? Okay.
If you all want to participate, we're
Sure.
ending all of our episodes now with a segment called This Bitch. And it's you could either highlight somebody that has inspired you, or if you want to vent and get something off your chest. If you want to participate or not, I'll leave it up to you.
No, I've got a this bitch. And it's a positive this bitch. I'm not gonna
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, okay. No. So I am going to give a shout out to a woman named Elaine. She's in her 90s. I'm not sure how far into her 90s she is, but she's one of the people that started showing up at our protests every week. Sometimes she had someone paint a sign for her that said like grandmothers for due process or something, like totally, just
Oh my God,
totally
that's
awesome woman.
great.
She's had all kinds of health problems. She'll come in and she's like, she's got a cane and she's been in the, I've been in the hospital this week, and like I've got this, really sorry I couldn't come last week because I had double vision, and but like she's got like a zillion things going on, but gosh darn it, she comes pretty much every week to come hold up a poster, yell a little bit, get people to honk a horn for her, and like that, it's like, okay, this bitch.
Yes. Say it, Julie.
Mm.
Say it.
I love it. I love that so much.
Oh.
I have to think. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I guess as a collective, can it be a collective? I think the people who speak up, the bitches who speak up have everything to lose, right? The undocumented filmmakers who are still out there making their films and speaking out, they have a lot to lose. So to those bitches, I know a lot of them. I see a lot of them. I mentor a lot of them, and they speak out even as they're afraid, and it really melts my heart. So to them.
Thank you both so much. This has been an important conversation. I hope this is the first of many, but both of you are this bitch to Aaron and I, for sure. Yeah.
These bitches.
Yeah, these bitches. We are very lucky to be in your presence. Bitch Talk keeps us going. Conversations like this keep us going. So thank you again to filmmakers, activists, return guests, Julie Cohen and Ramona Diaz. We'll talk again soon, hopefully.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. You can find more information about this episode in our show notes.
If you're missing us, you can visit us at bitchtalkpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter and buy us a cup of coffee.
Did you know we're also on the radio? You can find us at bff.fm.
And lastly, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All the cool bitches are doing it.